Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. Today is Monday, fun day, and that's exactly what we're going to have.
Alright, stop what you're doing, cause I'm about to ruin the image of me that you're used to. I look money, a king bee making honey, see? Deep state, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round, I'm the new sheriff in town. All my people rise up and stand your ground. Now drink up all the Diet Coke you got on your shelf. So just let me introduce myself, my name is Trump D. I like my mashed potatoes lumpy. Fake news, oh how I like to punk thee. That little sniper on the slope tin, he took a shot but he missed me. I don't fall, y'all, I'm like the ever ready bunny. Still going strong and spunky. So put on your big boy pants. Come on, let's do the dance.
The Trumpy dance is your chance to do the Trump.
Come on, do the Trumpy Trump. Come on and do the Trumpy Trump. Check me out, y'all. We do the Trumpy Trump. Just watch me do the Trumpy Trump. Yeah. Do you know what I'm doing? We do the Trumpy Trump. Come on, everybody do the Trumpy Trump. It's time to do the Trumpy Trump. Yeah. My favorite dish is a double Big Mac, cause I find it quite delicious. I eat up all your fries cause they're scrumptious. Hey yo, my squirrel, Peanut, are you listening? Yeah, they took you out like a rat. Why they treat you like that? It never would've happened, not with me. And yeah, it's safe to assume the communist agenda gonna end up in a tomb. Whoa, crazies, I always really baby. You never catch me cause you're just too lazy. Now join me and my homie Vance, cause this is how we do the dance.
Trumpy dance is your chance to do the Trump.
Come on, do the Trumpy Trump. Come on and do the Trumpy Trump. Check me out, y'all. We do the Trumpy Trump. Just watch me do the Trumpy Trump. Do you know what I'm doing? We do the Trumpy Trump. Come on, everybody do the Trumpy Trump. It's time to do the Trumpy Trump. Yeah, black people.
Do the Trumpty Trump. Just do the Trumpty Trump. That's right, folks. We're doing the Trumpty Trump today because we're having a good time. It's Monday. It's fun day. Interesting stuff happened over the weekend. We're going to talk about it all right here on The Rundown. Now, just a reminder, if you are watching this program live 3 p.m. Pacific or 6 p.m. Eastern, once again, we're live. We're taking your comments. So go ahead and let us know what's up. If you're watching us on YouTube, you're watching us on Twitter, maybe you're watching us on Facebook, maybe you're watching us on Rumble. Once again, however you are partaking of the program, we would love to hear from you. And once again, we are taking your comments live. If we find them to be interesting, we will share them. If we don't, we won't. And just know that you don't have to agree with us or agree with me anyway, in order for your comment to be read. It just has to be interesting. But do know this, that if you do decide that you want to disagree, do know that we do reserve the right to mock you.
Oh wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
That's right. We reserve the right to mock you, as Mike would say. We will mock you. Anyway, but before we get started into the news of the day, we're going to start with a quick shout out to our sponsors. And we're going to start with our friends at Hitman Industries. They have rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length. Just go to hitmanindustries.net. Chances are, if you've purchased an AR in the last few years, you already have one of their barrels, so why not check out another one? Once again, that's hitmanindustries.net. Then you've got the California Republican Assembly, working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Check them out today. Once again, that's cragop.org. In fact, Ronald Reagan once referred to them as the conscience of the Republican Party. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you have got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. You will find them at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, because they like helping Americans wear guns. Just go there, check them out. And by the way, if you decide to purchase, which I'm sure you're gonna, go ahead and use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there, and you're gonna get a discount on us. So check them out today. That's hogholsters.com. And then finally, if you're looking for outdoor gear, because the weather is changing, the weather's changing. It's going to get a little cooler. It's going to get a little wetter, and you're going to want to make sure that you are prepared. The place to go is going to be uscombatgear.com, where you can find all things tactical except the gun. So whether you're looking for boots, whether you're looking for hats, whether you're looking for eyes, whether you're looking for coats, whatever you're looking for, trust me, they specialize in group sales. So they have some of the best group discounts that you'll find out there. They have a huge selection, and they have the best customer service out there on the market. So go to their website now. Once again, check them out, uscombatgear.com, where you can find all things tactical except the gun. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started into the news today. And if you were following the protests over the weekend, and known as the No Kings protests, it was, well, first of all, just the idea of the complete and utter lack of understanding of history and exactly what a king is, because if you did, you would know that the number one most important thing that we have out there is we know that, well, we don't have kings. We don't have a king here in the United States, because if we had a king here in the United States, y'all wouldn't be out there marching. You wouldn't be allowed to be out there marching. You wouldn't be allowed to be calling him a Nazi. You wouldn't be allowed to all these various different things that you are out there saying or claiming that he is or that he does. You would not be allowed to do that. I don't understand why this is. Maybe it is just me, but there just seems to be a complete and utter fundamental misunderstanding as to what exactly a No Kings rally actually means. I mean, what it means to have a king. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just they misunderstand what it actually means to be a king. I don't know. I honestly do not know what it is, but evidently they don't seem to get it. But anyway, we're going to get it straight for them, and that then brings me to the news. The people who were actually out there, and this was kind of the weirdo thing that was going on. Was that the people out there didn't really necessarily seem to be, what am I looking for? They didn't seem to be a very diverse group of people. In fact, it was largely a bunch of old white liberals. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I admittedly, I didn't go out there because, quite frankly, I really was not interested in going out there. I really was not interested in spending time with the folks out there because I just really figured it was going to be an utter, cluster. I figured it would turn out to be exactly what it turned out to be, which was basically a bunch of old people sitting around, angry and upset that, that Republicans aren't doing exactly what it is that they want them to do. And here's the thing: what it ultimately comes down to is it's not so much that they didn't want a king, they just wanted their king. The one who decided that he was going to cancel student loan debt and make the rest of us pay for the student loan debts of those who refuse to actually pay their own student loan debt. Those folks. In case you're wondering, why I appear to be stalling. I'm trying to figure out why I can't get the news stories to come up. For some reason, they've just decided they're not going to come up. But I'll go ahead and I will read them to you here. Let's see here. It says here, GRANTIFA, and that's what they refer to them as. This is from over at the California Globe. It says GRANTIFA dominates No Kings geriatric protests. And I thought that was such a cool headline that, well, I had to use it. I had to use it for the title of today's show. But anyway, let me read for it from you here. And this is from Katie Grimes over at the California Globe. As you might recall, I've known her for over 20 years. I knew her when she was a blogger named Fetching Jen. Now she is the editor over at the California Globe. It says here, GRANTIFA dominated the No Kings protests Sunday. Oops, I meant to say geriatric protests on Saturday. These protests were hilarious, truly entertaining, but there was a freak show. There's a freak show quality to most of them. I especially appreciate the two mature fellows above who brought their own metal folding chairs to the protest in Jackson. Man, you've got to see some of these photos that she has posted here. There's a guy here in a chicken suit. Let me see if I can share that monitor. Hold on. I'm going to try something a little different here. I'm going to take this full screen. And then I'm going to go ahead and try and share the whole monitor because you guys have got to see these. This is This is completely and utter epic. You've got to see these images, but it's probably not different than anything that you guys have seen in other places at other protests that took place. But in this particular case, well, how shall I say it? Okay, here we go. There you go. So that's what we got right there. So this is what it's showing. So here, look, we are not paid agitators. We are your neighbors. The guy wearing a chicken on his head, and there's like no faux kings way, no kings, defend democracy. You notice here once again. I want you to notice it says GRANTIFA. There you go. This is the one right here that you were talking about. I met GRANTIFA today, and once again, the funny part is they act as if they were like the outlier for these protests, and the truth is they were not the outlier. They were the norm for these particular protests. It was spooky. I mean, not spooky. It was sad. I work with a number of African American Black publications, and it was funny because as they were talking about reporting from the No Kings protest here in Sacramento, they noted that there were probably about 15 Black people at a rally of about 7,000 people, and of those, most of them being. can't even say Gen Xers. I guess you could say Gen Xers because I'm at the very tail end of Gen X. I'm not a millennial. My kids are at the tail end of being millennials. But I'm definitely not a boomer. I'm definitely not a boomer. I was raised by boomers. Actually, they're part of the greatest generation. They're not even boomers. My mother and father were born in the 1920s, so they were older when they adopted my brother and I. So they were in their mid 40s when we were born. So I think they're considered part of the greatest generation. In any case, this was mostly boomers out here, and I find it to be hilarious because, well, let's just be real. A lot of the things that they are protesting for are what Ben Shapiro, as I've listened to him, would refer to as luxury beliefs or luxury values. In other words, these are values that only people who are of means, who live in communities where they don't have to deal with certain things, can actually have. So, for example, they're against law enforcement, or they're against the military being deployed, or Donald Trump being involved in trying to address crime in urban communities, despite the fact that it's out of control. See, because they live in nice neighborhoods, right? They live in places like in California would be known as like Marin, right? Or if you're talking Florida, would be more like Boca Raton, right? These are people who do not live in places where the average person has to deal with. And most of the people, by the way, here's the funny part. They consider themselves to be like concerned about people of color, but in reality, they're not. They're not, because the people who are most affected by the crime in these communities are people of color. They're low-income people of color. The very people that these folks claim that they want to support, well, they happen to be the very people that, well, are victims of the policies of the politicians that they support. When you talk about the effects of, they want to come against, they want like healthcare for illegal immigrants, right? They're like, we want to shut down, we want to reopen the government and get healthcare to illegal immigrants. Well, where do you think that money comes from? That money comes from a Medicaid program that is supposed to help low-income, particularly low-income single mothers. But instead, they want that program expanded to include illegal immigrants, right? They want people who aren't supposed to be getting it to get it. Oh, by the way, it was expanded to help middle class males who decide they don't want to go to work. Yeah, able-bodied middle class males are also subsidized partially under this thing. That's also who they wish to help, but not people of color, because brother got to work. I don't know about y'all. I don't work, I don't eat. So anyway, that's kind of how that works. But anyway, the funniest part about this whole thing, once again, is that the very people that they claim that they're out there to support, well, number one, they understand, basic I don't know, civics, and they understand that we don't have a king. They also understand that if we had a king, that king would not be allowing them to be out protesting them. Just saying. They also understand that many of the nations that they want us to be like, they do have kings. They do have dictators. They do have theocracies, but, they don't, they're either too dumb to recognize that or they're just not bright enough to they just don't get it, or they don't care. The hypocrisy just does not matter to them. I commented to one person, and there were just tons of people who were posting, "Yeah, I met the protest." I'm like, you know what? I made it a point that I had noticed with all of the media coverage, and I hit dozens of media outlets, and I noticed. I'm not saying that there were no people of color, but they were very, very few and far in between. And someone knows, well, there were people of color out there. And I had to remind them, I said, people with colored hair is not the same as people of color, especially if we're talking about blue hairs. Not saying, just saying. Anyway, but it just goes to show you that really where the Democratic Party is right now, there's only two groups of people who are supporting their cause. And that is some not very bright Gen Z folks who have basically are still being victimized and indoctrinated in the educational system, and many of them will come to realize how wrong that is when they get into the real world. Some of them are college educated liberal women who basically the Obama administration and then followed up by the Biden administration, who they were catered to. I mean, they literally ran commercials talking about how they could support a single woman from cradle to the grave, right? From beginning to end. You don't need a man. You don't need children. You want to go be all you can be in the Army or in the Navy or in government or whatever job. And you don't need a man, and screw men, because we are fighting the patriarchy, right? That was their thing. They want to fight the patriarchy. And you can't fight the patriarchy if you're sleeping with the patriarchy, if you're being with the patriarchy, if you're making kids with the patriarchy, if you're marrying the patriarchy. And how do we know that this is the case? Because and when you looked at women, like we noticed there's a divide politically where men were going one way and women were going the other, in particular in Gen Z and millennials. But what happened was this, is that for the men who were single, they were overwhelmingly going to the right. For the men who were married, it was more evenly split, right? Although it was still kind of generating or leaning towards going right. For women, the women who were married, once again, they were going majority right. But for the women who were single, it was way, 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 way radical left, leftist. Let me say leftist, not just left, but leftist. And and that is how it has borne itself out in terms of electoral politics, and that's young men. But once again, when you start dealing with or young men, but once again, when you start dealing with or what's the word? I'm trafficking in the obvious, in obvious falsehoods. You're eventually going to be held accountable, and that's exactly what happened here in these particular cases. What they were eventually held accountable. Okay, that brings us to our next story, and this next one, because of the rallies, most of the rallies or the protests or whatever you want to call them, most of them were peaceful. They were mostly peaceful, but there's still some places, some liberal places, like where they've still lost their damn minds. Yes, there's still some places, and well, they're attacking ICE facilities. They're attacking ICE agents. They are attacking federal officers. And there is a story here. Where is it? Yeah, the Ninth Circuit has granted the folks, has granted the Trump administration the ability to send National Guard troops into into the city. And let me I'm going to pull this up here real quick. I'm trying to set it up here for you. There you go. All right, now you should be able to see it. All right, here we go. Okay. So here we go. It says Ninth Circuit rules on Trump's National Guard deployment in Portland. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on Monday ruled that President Donald Trump can deploy Oregon National Guard troops into the city of Portland, delivering a significant victory to the Trump administration as it continues its effort to send federal forces into Democrat-led cities despite a string of recent setbacks in other districts and appeals courts. The judge on a 3-member panel ruled 2-1 to authorize Trump's deployment. Judge Ryan Nelson and Judge Bridget Bade, both appointed by Trump, sided with the administration on the majority ruling, with the lone Clinton appointee, Judge Susan Graber, dissenting. Quote, after considering the record at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. 1240-6-3, which authorizes the federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States, the majority wrote. The move has become a political flashpoint as protesters opposing key policies have clashed with law enforcement. Oregon officials and civil liberties groups say administration is exaggerating the threat, while Trump allies insist the guard is needed to restore order. Now, I get it that they're not protesting in every corner of Portland. I get that's not happening in every corner of Chicago. But where it is happening, it is happening. There is no doubt that it is happening. There's enough video out there. I don't know how you look at the video that exists on what's going on there in Portland, how you look at the photos of what's going on in Portland, how you take the accounts of officers who were literally under attack. Unless you're just fly out calling them liars. I don't know how you look at all of that and you don't come to the conclusion that that there's something going on, that these folks need some sort of protection. And especially when local law enforcement isn't doing what they need to do to get it under control. And in many cases, it's because they're being told to stand down by, well, we saw that in Chicago where they were being told by their leadership to stand down. When I say their leadership, I'm talking about from the city level, they were being told to stand down. There are recordings of such. I do not know that such a thing has occurred there in. I don't know that that's occurred in Portland, but I do know that many there in law enforcement do not feel like they have this level of support that they need in order to be successful, in order to successfully do what they are there to do. So anyway, I don't know what to tell you, but now once again, the Ninth Circuit, which by the way, that's thanks to Trump, 45 Trump, who appointed not just Supreme Court justices, but appellate court justices and district court justices, filling many, many roles within the Ninth Circuit that were left wide open, but also kind of coming against and putting some reasonable people in there to say, look, you know what? This is clearly within his wheelhouse. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not a huge fan, once again, of having troops on our streets. I'm really not. I wish that law enforcement had the ability to do their jobs and were empowered to actually do their jobs. But in many cases, they're undermanned because of the whole defund the police movement. And when I say not just the fact that funds were cut from law enforcement, but that many laws, like in places like Oregon, were passed that made it very, very challenging for law enforcement to do their jobs. Instances where you could not just lose your job, but you could lose your freedom, you could lose your pension, you could lose it all if you actually just did nothing more than did your job and or defended yourself. And so in many cases, you had a rash of law enforcement officers retire. They left. They left because they were like, look, if I don't leave now, there's a chance I could wind up either in jail or I could wind up without a retirement. So not going to go there. And you can't blame them for making that decision unless you are a left-wing liberal who supports the policies that they passed. Anyway, but talk about supporting bad policies. By bad policies, how about people who support bad people? And this brings to mind a story where the leading candidate there in New York City, Zoran Mandani. Well, let's just say that he's supporting some very, very bad people and supported by some very, very bad people. This is a story this is a story from the folks over at the New York Post. Mandani appears smiling arm in arm with unindicted 93 World Trade Center bombing co-conspirator and terrorist apologist. Lefty NYC mayoral candidate Zoran Mandani gleefully campaigned this week with a notorious gay-hating Brooklyn imam who is an unindicted co-conspirator in 1993 World Trade Center bombing and who has been linked to other terrorist activity in the United States, including urging jihad on the Big Apple. The Democratic frontrunner to become the city's next mayor has been laughing and grinning while standing arm in arm with Sarij Wahaj, at the Imam's Bedford Stuyvesant Mosque. In a photo, the socialist posted to X a day after his first mayoral debate. Councilman Yusuf Salam, a member of the Central Park Five, who was elected in November 2023, was also in the photo. Today at Majid at Taqwa, I had the pleasure of meeting both Imam Sharij Wahaj, one of the nation's foremost Muslim leaders and a pillar of the Bed-Stuy community for nearly half a century. Mandami wrote on X of the Friday encounter. Now, I need you to understand this, and I need you to realize this. This is nothing new. Keep in mind, Barack Obama, his mentors were domestic terrorists, right? The people who got him first involved, the people who were initially walking around raising money for him, were in fact domestic terrorists. So it is no surprise that that Democrats would have no problem with him standing next to people who were part of the World Trade Center bombing. That he would have no problem with people who are supportive of terrorism or domestic terrorism here in the United States. I don't know why that would be a surprise to anyone. It is definitely not a surprise to me. But folks, keep in mind, this is who you're looking to put in place. Right. This is who New York is looking for. And the problem is that the only other guy you got to choose from, well, you have the mayor, you have the Republican who's running, who, according to all polls, has absolutely no shot of winning. I mean, just has absolutely positively no shot of winning. But then you've got, well, you got Andrew Cuomo, who is a crooked POS himself. This is who Democrats choose to lead. That's who y'all are choosing. That's who you are choosing, Democrats. And like I said, I part of me is hoping that Mandami wins, only because as he destroys New York City, it'll be the best example of this is what happens when you let socialists run the government. I don't live in New York, so I don't know how much it's going to affect me, but I feel bad for the people of New York. If you own your home there, all I can suggest is I'll bet you got plenty of equity. Time to sell it and move. Trying to find someplace else to go. People say that about me here in California, but I may say I may have a snake in the grass, POS running the state government, but he ain't a Marxist. He's not a 100% out of the closet Marxist the way Mondami is. And Mondami will say he's not, but here's the deal: if all of the policies that you support are Marxist, then you might be a Marxist. That's not that hard to figure out. It really isn't. All right, and finally, SCOTUS to hear a case on drug users owning guns. Specifically, this is going to be, I don't know if this is going to specifically be related to just marijuana, but I do know that this has been something that has been a long time coming, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the Supreme Court has to say about it. This being reported by NBC News. It says here, Supreme Court agrees to review law that bars drug users from having firearms. The Supreme Court on Monday agreed to decide whether a federal law that bars frequent users of illegal drugs from possessing a firearm violates the Constitution's right to keep and bear arms. The Trump administration, which is defending the law, despite its overall support for gun rights, had asked the justices to hear its challenge of the appeals court ruling in favor of Ali Daniel Hermani, an alleged regular user of marijuana who was charged with violating the law. It is the same law that Hunter Biden, the son of former President Joe Biden, was convicted under in June of 2024 before being pardoned by his father. The case is the second on gun rights the Supreme Court has taken up in recent weeks. On October 3rd, the justices agreed to review whether a Hawaii law that imposes new restrictions on where people with concealed carry permits can bring handguns also violates the Constitution's Second Amendment. So basically, this is going to come down to one thing, and I think in the end, what's going to come down to is, just like is the case with allowing exemptions for the right to keep and bear arms for people with mental health, the statement is going to be made clear that people who are using drugs are under the influence, and if you are under the influence, you are barred from possessing a firearm. Now, the question is, can you still own one? Meaning, okay, maybe when I'm drunk or maybe when I'm high, I can't possess a firearm, but am I now banned from owning a firearm? Meaning, when I'm not using drugs, when I'm not on drugs, is it illegal for me? Can they take away my right to keep and bear arms? That is going to be an interesting question. And it's one that I'm looking forward to hearing the answer to, because I can see arguments on both sides. I can see arguments in the middle. I can see them saying they can bar you from possessing a firearm if you are under the influence. I can totally see that. I can totally see them. And then saying, well, but if you're not under the influence, well, then you are legally allowed to own it. So, in other words, I can see them splitting the baby in that particular case. I can see them saying, well, no, you know what? Drug users, even in some case with some drug users, they are under the influence even when they are not intoxicated by it. The mere addiction will lead them to do things and cause them to do things that might make them more dangerous. Because, many cases people will commit crimes in order to get their fix. So I can see where they could rule that way and say absolutely positively not, in no way. I can see where they could also split that baby and say, well, it depends on the drug and where it's at and what's it ruled at. I can totally see them doing that as well. I can totally see them saying, well, no, you know what? The right to keep and bear arms is the right to keep and bear arms. And because in some cases you don't have the ability to know whether they are on it or off of it, like in the case of marijuana, then no, you cannot restrict it, because they may have it in their system, they may test positive for it, but they may have used it, days or weeks ago, and they're no longer under the influence of it. So this could go just about anywhere. And this is really going to take a little bit more of a detailed understanding of drugs, the different types of drugs, what under the influence actually means, how it's restrictive. It's going to be, anyway, it is going to make for very interesting oral arguments. I will just say that, because you're going to have some law and order conservatives, some law and order folks. You're going to have some liberty minded folks. You're going to have some very liberal progressive folks that hate guns. Once again, all of those are on the Supreme Court and could make for a very interesting partnership in this particular decision. To be honest with you, whatever way it comes out, I could easily see some liberal justices and some conservative justices on both sides of this particular issue. And I want to see how it is. I am not the only quote unquote drug that I am a consumer of, recreational drug, is alcohol. So I don't know that they're looking to include that. But who knows? They could wind up saying they could wind up expanding the ruling to say, if they do rule that it's illegal to possess a firearm while you are under the influence, they could include alcohol. Or at least I could very easily, or that maybe not that it's not illegal, but it is constitutional for you to bar someone who is intoxicated from being able to possess a firearm. Maybe not own it, because being intoxicated is not a permanent state. Anyway, I could easily see that. So it's going to be a very, very interesting ruling. One that you will definitely see some legislation start to come out post this ruling. Whatever this ruling is, you're going to see gun control activists come out, and you're going to see gun rights activists come out and try and introduce various different things in various different states to see what happens. Anyway, it's going to be, that one right there is going to be a barn burner nonetheless. All right, folks, well, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code of The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word. All right, this first one here, and I had to bring this one up because this is one of the first things that I noticed. Not only did I notice that they were pretty much all geriatric, but I noticed there were not many people of color at these protests. And this one lady, she kind of recognized it and is calling these folks out on it.
Somebody look at this. Somebody look at this. The whites. Look at the whites. The kids in Baltimore cannot read, y'all. The kids in Baltimore can't read, but the whites is out here protesting Trump. The kids in Baltimore are getting shot dead. The kids in Baltimore are getting shot dead, and the whites is out here. Look at the whites. The whites is out here protesting Trump. Did you know that there was murders down the street? Y'all protesting Trump. Y'all ain't got nothing else to protest about? Y'all murder everywhere. Oh, okay. So the whites, they came out here. Instagram loves y'all. The whites came out here to protest in Baltimore about Trump. Ain't that something, y'all? The whites can protest about anything else, and they choose to protest Trump.
Anyway, so she focused a lot on the whites. I mostly was looking at like the fact that they were geriatric, the fact that they were basically boomers. Anyway, boomers and weirdos. And as I pointed out earlier in the show, people tried to call them, say, oh, well, there were people of color out there. As I pointed out, people with colored hair are not people of color. Not saying, just saying. All right, this next one, once again, we talked a little bit earlier. I talked about the divide that's taking place between men and women, between men and women, young men and young women. And it's creating some issues when it comes to finding someone with whom to spend the rest of your life. And this young lady, who is a liberal woman, she's expressing a concern because she can't seem to find a good liberal boyfriend. And there's a gentleman on here who explains exactly why that is.
I don't think there's anything harder than finding a liberal boyfriend. Where is he?
He's on Grindr, looking for a liberal boyfriend too.
Yeah, that was funny. Yes, that's exactly where you will find him. He's looking for a liberal boyfriend too. Actually, he's probably looking for a conservative boyfriend. All right, this last video here, and I really wish Mike had been here today because I wanted to share this one. If I could have found another video, I would have saved this one for Mike. Now, I will just say this. I've been trying to convince the wife to move to Florida. And the one thing that stands in the way of that, other than the fact that our kids are here, well, let's just put it this way. It's the Gators. But in this particular video, it just goes to show that they're finding a use for the Gators.
Tommy! Tommy, no! Oh my God! Get off the... Tommy! Tommy! Oh my God! Ah! I'm coming!
Okay, for those of you who are just listening to the program, first of all, let me point out, this is a little kid who is climbing on the back of a gator. And as the parents come running out to save the little boy, the gator takes off running. First of all, gators do run very fast. But just so you know, I'm betting, because that was a pretty good video, but from what I look at, that was an AI video. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. But yeah, I'm 99.9% sure that was an AI generated video. But once again, fun nonetheless. All right, folks, well, that brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length at hitmanindustries.net. We've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government. Check them out at cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. And then finally, the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun. That would be uscombatgear.com. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you mañana. Peace out.